This is At the Extremes.
Beloved, welcome back to At the Extremes, the podcast about the extremes in our society and how we got here. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Greg.
And I'm Sergio. Let's go! Extreme!
And today we're taking a break from Cody to discuss labor in the United States of America. But Sergio, before we get started on that, I got a question for you. I guess it's actually two questions. First, how old were you when you got your first job? Mm-hmm. And what was your first job?
Well, so are we talking unofficial or official? Because official job, I was 17 and my and I worked at Blockbuster Video.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude.
That's awesome.
It was great.
That's a great job.
It was awesome. I've actually, no lie, have met my best friend of all time from Blockbuster. We're still, we are still in contact. I saw him when I was out in Seattle.
Holy shit. That's awesome.
And I probably have like 4 or 5 really solid friends from Blockbuster when I was 18. So it's 20 plus years.
Wow.
So yeah,
wow.
I mean, we with the VHS tapes and stacking the tapes and late fees and smoking weed in the back and doing all sorts. And I stole so many movies from Blockbuster.
I bet.
So yeah, how about you?
Well, I was going to ask you a follow-up if I could.
Oh, please.
Were people kind and did they rewind?
Fuck no, man. You know how many times I got like screamed at? I was actually pretty cool. I would erase people's late fees all the time and would get in trouble.
Okay.
But people would just freak out and just scream. I had this guy run up to my car when I was leaving. You fucking gave me a $4.34 late fee, and was just like screaming at me. And I was like,
wow. The customer's always right.
Clearly. I mean, well, we see what happened to Blockbuster.
Yeah.
So,
poor Blockbuster, man.
I think there's one or two left.
There's one, I think, out in
like
Bend,
Alaska,
right?
or something like that.
I thought it was in Bend.
I don't know. I thought it was in Alaska. It was like the last Blockbuster, but yeah, it was. I mean, it was crazy, dude. We would have on Friday and Saturday nights, the lines would be all the way back to the wall, and it was just insane.
Dude, I remember we would go. My parents would take us to either McDonald's or Domino's, and then we would go. My dad would be like, "All right, it's movie night. Pick whatever you want. We'll get a video game. You get a movie. Each one of you get a video game. Each one of you get a movie." And my brother wasn't a video game head, so like I took his video game spot, and I was really big into wrestling. So I would always get like the last year's SummerSlam or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like, because they would.
What
rush
system
it out.
did you guys used to rock on?
Nintendo, and then Super. We were a Nintendo family. Never did Sega.
I had a buddy that had a Sega, and it was probably what, 7th or 8th grade when Mortal Kombat came out, and you could actually have the blood in it and do all the finishing moves. Yeah. But definitely, I was a big Street Fighter 2 fan.
Blanca.
Yeah.
Don't even get me fucking started. Him and Guile, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking ridiculous.
Sonic Boom.
So I think you asked me like what was my first job. So my first official job was working at Burger King.
Nice.
I worked there for less than a week.
Oh. Please tell me what happened.
I realized, and no disrespect to fast food workers and service workers, but I was just like, this is not for me. I knew at an early age, like, I am a white collar worker all the way through.
You're basically saying you're better than this.
I think I actually said that to the person before I left. My parents picked me up in their car. I didn't even have a way to get around. Like an asshole.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm better than you.
My first long-term job was at a store called Music and Arts. It was a music store. And
like CDs and cassette tapes?
No. So we would rent out musical instruments to students for school. And it was like a store full of guitars and drums and pianos and things like that. So they would do music courses there. And during the downtime, they would give us free lessons on the guitar, piano, like whatever you wanted. So it was a really great job. I actually loved that job.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool job.
And I'm sure that you get to hang out with a lot of people that like music and talk music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we need to actually go back to Burger King. So what was it about Burger King? Did you not like smelling like grease?
Oh, yeah, dude.
Was it just fucking gross because you just saw the conditions that you were working in? What was it?
So it was a smell thing. It was, oh my God, like I eat this food and now I see how it's being made and I don't want to eat this food anymore. And I also don't want to work here because it's disgusting. Like the flame broiled thing and all this other, it's so gross, dude.
I have to say, I'm not a Burger King fan. It's
you
definitely.
what kind of burger boy are you?
I mean, I was I'm basic. I grew up McDonald's all the way. But growing up in Seattle, we had Dick's Burgers, which was fast food. It was a little fancier than McDonald's, but it was a job that you could get that it would pay you like $3 or $4 higher than the minimum wage.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of Dick's Burgers before.
Oh man, next time you make it out to Seattle, definitely have it. They
really?
have the Dick's Deluxe and the shakes are.
Is it like an In-N-Out kind of thing where it's like a little bit more like a local regional kind of fast food place?
I mean, I think it's just really specific just to Seattle. Like,
really? Okay.
I think there's like 4 or 5 stores total. So,
holy shit! Okay.
But I mean, it's the spot. Like Sir Mix-a-Lot raps about Dick's Burgers on My Posse's on Broadway and stuff like that.
Oh shit! Okay, I didn't even put that together. Wow. All right.
But it's a great spot, and every time, like if you went after 11 o'clock, the lines would be through the roof, or not through the roof, but just really really long because people are drinking and they're going out and getting their Dick's fix.
Wow, the Dick's fix. All right. Well, I learned about the West Coast Freeze Out? Was that
the Northwest Freeze?
Northwest Freeze and the Dick's fix.
Yeah,
I've learned about a lot of things this week.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. So I imagine that you got that job when you were in high school.
Well, working at Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Blockbuster I worked at was I think like 4 blocks away from my house. So it was cool. Actually, through that time too, I worked with an interesting group of people that would kind of go in and out. People would get fired all the time. Dude, we had somebody that stole. He had a gambling addiction, and he stole the evening, like everything that we had rung up to try to go gamble it and win back whatever he had lost previously.
Holy shit!
Yeah, the cops came and got him.
Wow.
Yeah, shit was crazy. And then we also it's the first time have you ever been to rave?
No, I've never even heard of. What is rave?
A rave, like
just
a
rave.
No,
I've never been to a rave.
That was the first time that I ever went to a rave, and I felt really cool because one of the guys was also a drug dealer, but he had like Echo. Did you ever rock out Echo sweatshirts?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, the Echo sweatshirts back in the day were like $70, and that was a lot of money. You're like, whoa! And he let me borrow his, and I was like, hell yeah! And I went to the rave and. It was not for me, just because it was my first experience seeing people on ecstasy, and there was like 3 or 4 people that were just trying to touch you, and I was like, "Get the fuck off me!" And they're like, "Oh yeah." So yeah, it wasn't for me. But
it feel like a carpet.
Yeah. It just brings your senses alive.
Yeah, that's one of those things I've never really had any desire to get into. But anyway, okay, well,
let's bang away.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cold open, I think. Much like I'm going to try to find a way to transition this. We're going to talk about the raves of the early 1900s in the labor laws of America today.
Oh, so maybe it pertains to us working as young adults and what it could have been if we were born 50, 60 years earlier.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the cold open sorted. When we come back, we're going to go into labor.
Hell yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
All right, ding dong. All right, we'll be right back. So, Sergio, now that we're back, a lot of what I'm going to be reading off of here comes from the History Channel website, Department of Labor, and a couple of other websites, including one called ushistory.org.
That's fake news.
Fake news, guys, folks. I need to say it right now. America used to be great. It used to be great.
But this is just too much critical race theory.
A little bit of labor. Too much labor, folks.
We need more labor. The children need to work. The economy is bad.
If it's up to them, they might actually do that. So, like I said, a lot of it, what I'm going to be reading, History Channel, a couple of other sources. But anyway, I think it's critical that we stop today to discuss why we have off from work. I think, I know that I associate the holiday with, Mattress Firm sales, trips to the beach, not Blockbuster, but Best Buy, that kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. But what's your familiarity with Labor Day?
I mean, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but I always get Labor Day and Memorial Day mixed up. So I always fuck it up.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're just like, oh, yeah, it's Memorial Day. And they're like, no, Labor Day, you idiot.
So I
have no respect for the troops.
or labor.
Or labor.
For that matter. So I think maybe this might actually be enlightening for you then. So Labor Day's got a pretty complicated history in the United States, as many social movements in the country do, right? So individuals, world events, a lot of that might be glossed over because I'm trying to keep this to an hour today. We could probably do an entire series on this. So we won't be deep diving into every movement, all of the injuries, factory fires, worker deaths, major distinctions between certain days. But I do want to highlight one major difference in our recognition of labor versus the rest of the world. And the rest of the world celebrates labor on something called May Day or International Workers' Day.
Okay.
But we do not. And here's why. Due to International Workers' Day affiliation with communism, ding dong,
that's the big C word.
Yep, the evil Red Scare. Actually, it was part of the first Red Scare, as it turns out. The United States, since 1921, has referred to May 1st as Loyalty Day, a.k.a. Law Day. Every president, Sergio, from Eisenhower has issued the same proclamation.
Really?
Every single president since, including Biden, and I'll read this off to you. But the actual statement from the White House from this year from President Biden is, now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim May 1st, 2024 as Loyalty Day. This Loyalty Day, I call upon the people of the United States to join the national observance, display the American flag, and pledge allegiance to our republic for which it stands.
Man, what's kind of crazy about that, the way that you just described that, it kind of brought me back to Nazi Germany and just Loyalty Day and just, hands going straight up in the air. I mean, granted.
We're not doing that.
We're not doing that, but it's this allegiance.
Yeah. And so like the funny thing about this day, May 1st in the United States is that without actually having gone into this, like reading into this at all, have never heard of it. Zero frame for it.
I've never heard of it. Yeah.
It is one of those things where most people know more about International Workers' Day or May Day than they do about Loyalty Day, just because of the impact of the things that we're going to talk about today.
So with this, so when they make this declaration, what is it on Twitter? Do they make a statement that they put out to the American government? Yeah,
it's a White House memo every single year, and I'll pull it up for you real quick. Every single year they do this.
Okay.
Back to Eisenhower. It's like a de facto, we got to push this out. It's one of the things that we just do as a country. Most people don't pay attention to it. America, I'll read the first little paragraph from the memo here. America is the home to people from every place on earth, some whose ancestors have been here for thousands of years and others who have just arrived. We all came from somewhere, but we are all American. Loyal not to...
That's debatable.
Well, who is American?
Yeah,
That's a great question. I think the Republican Party is trying to answer that for us.
Yep.
Loyal not to a person or a place, but to an idea. We are all created equal and deserve to be treated equally throughout our lives. This idea is our nation's North Star. While we have never fully lived up to it, we have never stopped pursuing it. This Loyalty Day, we promise to always keep fighting for a more perfect union. Now, that's like that opening stanza is not every president, what they've said, but like
a variation.
Yeah, basically, more or less, right? Before it was a federal holiday, Labor Day was recognized by labor activists and individual states. After municipal ordinances were passed in 1885 and 1886, a movement developed to secure state legislation. So New York was the first to introduce a bill, but Oregon was the first in the nation to recognize Labor Day, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
They did that in 1887. During 1887, 4 more states joined this movement. Colorado.
I mean, Oregon must have just joined, right? I mean,
it was really early on.
It must have been brand new state.
Yeah, it was like really shortly after they announced that it was a whites only state.
And we're going to recognize a holiday.
Yeah. Directed just and only specifically for us working white guys. So during 1887, 4 more states joined: Colorado, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York. They all passed laws creating Labor Day as a holiday. So states' rights, states making the call for themselves, right? By the end of the decade, Connecticut, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, they had all follow suit. At the end of 1894, 23 more states had adopted the holiday. And in 1894, June 28th, Congress passes an act making the first Monday in September of every year a legal holiday, celebrating American labor, which is a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was an entire trail of blood that led up to that entire that one moment. So,
good. So we celebrate, yet we lament.
Yes. The Department of Labor continues in their assessment here. While some return to work, and this is after, let me preface this. This is after New York City decided to hold a parade for Labor Day as a celebration, right? Okay, so this is a little bit afterwards here. So while some returned to work, most continued on the post-parade party at Wendell's Elm Park at 92nd Street and 9th Avenue. Even some unions that had not participated in that parade showed up to join the festivities. Those festivities included speeches, a picnic, abundance of cigars, lager beer on kegs.
Oh, yeah.
Mounted on every conceivable place,
Hell
which
yeah.
is just like, I can imagine it now. Like I see it in my head, like just a bunch of dudes ripping stogies and fucking just getting blacked out drunk with their families.
What year was this?
This was in 1984.
1894.
1894. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So it's pre-prohibition. Before that, that was nixed out. Okay.
Yep. So they partied from 1 p.m. till 9 p.m. just getting fucking wasted.
That sounds awesome.
Nearly 25,000 people, union members and their families, filled the park and celebrated the very first Labor Day. So even the first sanctioned party for Labor Day was a gigantic street block party, right? Like everyone was just out in the street having a picnic, drinking. I imagine because it was the 1800s, the kids were also smoking cigars and just drinking to their heart's content because
mom and dad are passed out.
Yeah, why not? I got nothing else to do.
Yeah,
no one's taking care of me here.
No.
Speaking of children, this is where it's going to start getting. This is where we're going to
gets dark.
This is where we're going to take our turn.
Really?
We're going to go around the corner.
No,
here. Just take a peek.
We don't do that.
Take a peek. So, child labor played a major part in labor reforms in the United States, and as well, and really, we could do a whole episode on child labor alone. Like genuinely, it is an incredibly complicated situation back in the early 1900s, but. There's a guy who did a much better job than we'll ever do covering this. His name is Lewis Hine. He was a photographer who, at the time, chronicled the evolution of child labor in the United States.
We're looking at a picture right now of children. They look really happy.
Dude, all of these kids look like Babe Ruth. They're all just look at that fucking kid's face. They
all look like they have the black lung and they're swollen and they've probably inhaled asbestos for a long time.
This one's got a cross eye. He got kicked in the head by a horse or something.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
So Hine had had this to say about child labor in the United States. There is work that profits children, and there is work that brings profit only to employers. The object of employing children is not to train them, but to get high profits from their work. So even back...
And not pay them.
Yeah. I mean, they were getting paid, a
hay penny?
Might as well. I don't even know what that is, but...
I think it's a half a penny.
Really? Well, there you go. Yeah, basically. Genuinely. If the take-home pay for the day was 45 cents to an adult, theirs was 5 cents to a child. It was really rough.
It was basically the pre-glass ceiling. Because women can work, but children.
Oh, Sergio, we've got so much to cover. It's important to know. Now that we've covered child labor, we haven't covered the entire thing. Like I said, we're going to gloss over some stuff here. I'm trying to
a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So much stuff. But it's important to know, though, Labor Day only becomes a holiday after events like the Great Upheaval and the Haymarket Massacre. Do you know about either one of those two events?
No.
Okay. So I'm not saying that those are the only two events, but they are major major role. They play a major role in getting the nation to look at labor practices in our country. So it's something I didn't know, and I got a degree in history and American history. Had no idea any of this existed, with the exception of the Haymarket Massacre. I knew about that one, but like a lot of the other stuff, I just didn't know about. So like reading all this stuff was really enlightening in a lot of ways.
So I'm going to do an alarm real quick. It's Sergio tangent time right now. So one of the things that just blows my mind right now is that we're talking about labor laws and how it's been 70, 80 years since we've been reforming this. Yet we send our labor forces out to foreign countries, and we basically, children are working there. And granted, there's the side that, oh yeah, with more opportunities to work, they're improving the people's lives that live in China and Mexico, whatever. But yet when they talked about the Apple factories in Shenzhen, they had nets thrown out all over so that when people were trying to kill themselves because they were in horrible, labor situations, that they would still be alive and could get back to work. So that's it. Tangent over. That's fucking fucked up.
And we're going to come back to that. We didn't have nets here, but we had a lot of other things happening here in the early 1900s. Oh boy, it's going to get rough. God, we're going to have burgers and sausage after this, but it's going to be rough before we get there.
Dude, why do we do this? Why do we do this?
Sergio, it's because I
don't feel good about myself.
I'm a depressed person. That's why. I'm clinically depressed. That's why.
I have to pass it around to everybody around you.
I have to offload some of my depression to people. All right.
That's therapeutic.
Yeah, in some ways, right? You got to have ways to get it off of you. Some people decide to work out. I decide to talk to people and force people to listen to me.
About the most depressing topics ever.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
That's how I process it.
Yeah.
It's important to know, like I said, it doesn't come without these two events. So the Great Upheaval, we're going to talk about that one first. It was a railroad strike in 1877 that took place across several states, but started in a place called Martinsburg, West Virginia, which is literally the only thing that's ever happened in Martinsburg, West Virginia. The strike came about because, employers cut their pay again. Mm-hmm. It was the third pay cut within a year. And from an article in ushistory.org, as they put it, most goals of labor can be reduced to two overarching issues: higher wages and better working conditions.
But just think about that right now. Think about you working a job, the jobs that we're working right now, and they're saying, yeah, we're going to pay you less next year, right, or in a month.
Or in the same week.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, people would go fucking mental. So, Great Upheaval. 1877. From the history.org. Strikes or other actions seen as disturbances are usually handled at the local level. The mayor of Martinsburg tried in vain to threaten the striking workers, but the crowd merely laughed and booed at the mayor.
Hell yeah.
The local police were far too insubstantial to match the numbers of the rabble. In desperation, the mayor turned to the governor of West Virginia for support. The governor sent... God damn that fucking dog.
I love Rugby.
I love him too. But I wish he'd shut the fuck up. The governor sent units to the National Guard to Martinsburg to accompany the trains out of town by force of arms. There was a little support for the effort among the guardsmen. However, because a majority of these guys, Sergio, they were railroad workers themselves. Mm-hmm. So after two people were killed in the standoff, the guards put their guns down and began chatting with their fellow railroad workers.
God, man, that's fucking so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They were just like, you know what? This doesn't make any sense.
No. Why are we here?
It was only after President Hayes called in federal troops that the trains leave the station, right? Mm-hmm. And even then they were harassed and sabotaged all along their route on the way back. Only one train reached its final destination on the B&O Railroad. The strike went on for 52 days, and only after an unofficial militia, National Guard involvement, and federal troop involvement did the strike end. And that was just the start. The movement spread to neighboring states. I'm talking Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, New Jersey, Connecticut, and I think also New York.
Wow.
So this spread like wildfire. There was a collective mind around, oh shit, we can actually do something here if we all decide to band together.
Collectively get after it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, 100 people had to die during this period of time, during this this stretch of striking, and they all died at the hands of the state. The state decided, we're going to kill these people because we want them to go back to work. Workers destroyed rail lines, burned down facilities and train yards, and pushed their employers to provide back pay, raise their wages, and provide better working conditions.
Pretty reasonable things.
Yeah, I'd say so too. Yeah. From history.org, ushistory.org, in some cases, the strikes were ended by force. In others, the strikers simply gave up. After all, workers were not trying to overthrow the government or the social order. They simply wanted higher wages and more time to spend with their families. The Great Upheaval was not the first strike in American history, but it was the first strike to reach several states and people separated by several miles, hundreds of miles, thousands of miles. It was the first one in the country to have like this like penetrative force into the culture.
Well, it's kind of giving me chills right now. I'm just thinking about what it was like with the during Martin Luther King's time with the bus strike, and you know how big those protests were. And I mean, it was for racial justice, not labor, but I mean, it had kind of similar impacts on our society in the way.
MLK was very. We'll talk about it a little bit later in the show, but MLK definitely plays a part in this down the road.
I mean, he understands what the value of people putting into a system, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Unions at the time, they were not much of a thing, or at least they weren't really well organized. At the peak of the strikes, of the strike that happened during this railroad strike, over 100,000 men were a part of this strike, which was incredible. That's an incredible amount of people.
Yeah, especially during that time, population-wise. That's a big percentage.
And skilled labor, too.
Yeah.
Like 100,000 skilled labor people working on railroads saying, you know what, fuck it, we're not going to do it. Like that's a lot. It's not an insignificant amount of men who are part of this awakening, this consciousness that was arising in the country, where they were going, oh, well, there is a gigantic divide between those of us who actually produce things and those who own things. So it was a really profound moment in our country's history in terms of labor. And I didn't know about this until a couple of days ago while I was at jury duty. and I was bored out of my fucking mind.
Guilty or not guilty? I don't know. It's a labor.
Couldn't give a shit.
What?
Sir, what did you say, sir? Yeah, you know, I'm definitely paying attention. Jeez, I've got so many things to say about our court system. By the way, I could go on forever. We'll talk about that all.
That'll be another.
Actually, yeah, I've already started on it. While I was in the courtroom, I was like, "Fuck me!" Like, there's something in here. I found a pretty powerful political cartoon from the time. In this picture, I'm going to show you here in a second. The artist is depicting the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire of New York, which, if you're unaware, and I assume that you are, because I didn't know about it until today, or not today, but earlier this week. It's the country's deadliest. It's one of the country's deadly industrial disasters in American history. Okay. It is the deadliest disaster in New York's history. 146 women and girls died, along with 23 men. Most of
those poor 23 men. God.
Well, but here's the thing: most of those people who died were illegal immigrants or illegal migrants.
Yeah.
Ranging from 14 to 46 years old.
Polish and Irish?
Italian, Polish, German. Yeah. Wow. It's almost like, though, Sergio, like from the very beginning, migrant labor safety has been, I don't know.
Kind of at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah. It's always been a secondary thought. Yeah. And business owners have always sought out migrant labor, it turns out.
Why is that?
I don't know, something about cost, money, something like that. I don't know. Or the fact that they don't have to protect them. Huh? So just so you're tracking, the reason why they died is because the owners decided they wanted to lock the doors that access the hallway because they didn't want them taking unauthorized breaks. So it's all about breaks, right? The women, the men, the children, they were all producing women's blouses. So the shirt that you're wearing, the fabric, on this chair.
Well, what beautiful
By the way,
kit am I wearing right now?
Shout out to the fact that you're wearing the Arsenal top right now.
Yeah,
brilliant top. Imagine that and all like the fabric that goes into that, just like spill it all over the floor, and then someone lit a match Like it's just
spilled some gasoline on it too.
Yeah. So tons of flammable material all over the shop floor. You can kind of see it in your mind, kind of like playing out a little bit, right? Like smoke is.
I'm trying not to play it out.
So, Sergio, I need to drive you to the point of insanity that I'm at now. So there's smokes filling the room. There's fire billowing up the side of this building. All of a sudden, like you've got women, children, men throwing themselves out of the window. Think 9/11, right? Like people are just throwing themselves out of the 10th story of this fucking building.
Desperation.
Because they don't want to burn alive. Now, I'm going to show you the picture, the cartoon rather, and it is, and I'll zoom in here a little bit. So the political cartoon has a business owner who's got a suit on, and on that suit are just a bunch of dollar signs, right? And there's a ghastly scene being played out behind the door that he's holding.
With smoke and people looking like, I need to get out of here.
Well, most of them are dead.
Yeah. Or they're dead.
Bodies piled up on top of bodies, on top of bodies. And there is a guy, a business owner, going, you know what? I'm not letting you out because I need the money. Well, that's what I took away from this.
But also, if you look at that picture as well, there's the key in it is a big dollar sign at the end of it.
Exactly.
And yeah.
It's really, I think that political cartoons back then really did a really good job of highlighting just how just corrupt these people were. So, Sergio, another quick note on this, and I swear to God, I'll wrap up on this point. The Department of Labor and Statistics identified something, and I got curious because migrant labor being what it is, migrant workers from Mexico made up a third of fatalities that occurred on construction work sites in 2021.
Jeez.
5,190 people died on construction work sites. Of that number, foreign-born Latino workers saw 727 people die. That's 14% of the workforce deaths.
Well, dude, I mean, with the Key Bridge collapse, who were the 5 people that died?
Right. Yeah.
5 Latino workers that were on the bridge fixing the road.
Yeah.
I'm so sad right now. Fuck you, Greg.
So that 14% is a 5% increase from the previous year.
Jeez.
So that's the second highest amount of people, foreign-born Latino men and women who have died since data has been tracked since I think 2011. But I digress. There's no connection between what happened way back then and today. There's no connection at all. We have learned so much.
Yeah, we've grown.
Yeah, absolutely. Sergio, I think we should take a real quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Haymarket Massacre.
Oh, I love massacres.
We are back. Sergio, we're in Chicago. I want you to put yourself here.
Well, first let's cheers because hell yeah to labor and us working and being able to talk about it and pot about it.
Well, the fact that we've got all of our fingers and we don't have the black lung is a success story as far as I'm concerned.
Without a doubt.
So I want you to put yourself in Chicago. The year's 1886. Deep dish pizza is littering the street. Hot dog water is safer to drink than well water. And the Cubs, well, they're starting a journey to be the most overrated team in that city. I know a couple of people who will take offense to that. The massacre that we're talking about today in this section is the Haymarket Massacre. The massacre, it came as a result of a labor demonstration that occurred on May 4th, 1886. On May 1st, as you remember, is International Workers' Day. So on May 1st, the working middle class, the working poor, and other workers' rights groups, along with anarchists, socialists, and communists, gathered to demonstrate and protest poor working conditions, low pay, and advocated for an 8-hour workday. We're talking tens of thousands of people in the street.
Is this right during the robber baron eras too, with Carnegie and all those guys?
Oh, Sergio, you fucking wizard! You're looking into your crystal ball again, you son of a bitch.
The Vanderbilts.
I think. So here's what I've got a conspiracy theory for our listeners. So when we take these breaks, we actually do take these breaks, and I go to the bathroom every single time. And I think what Sergio does is he takes a real quick, I think he's a speed reader, and he goes through the script, and he looks through my script, and he goes, oh, well, I'm going to bring that up.
Dude, I'm dyslexic. I read things, and I read things backwards, and I screw it all up. So I definitely do not do that. Because I'll be like, oh, yeah, do. What are you talking about? Is that even a coherent sentence?
So, like I said, we're talking tens of thousands here, right? And they're walking, they're chanting, they're singing. I mean, tens of that. Like we're talking like Martin Luther King at the
heyday
on
of
the
the
mall,
civil rights movement.
we're talking Washington Mall kind of stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are protesting, and they're singing something called 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Now, they sound like douchebags, but can you imagine tens of thousands of
I
people
don't know.
singing that?
It reminds me of like Catholic Church or
Yeah,
whatever.
but I knew that would take you back to a part of your life.
Yeah. I regressed a little bit.
Yeah, you did. Sergio, no,
10,000 people. Wow.
Sergio, drop the cracker and drop the blood of Christ. This is not the time for that. But yeah, like we're talking, I mean, like at least 30,000 people were in the street singing that song the entire way as they're marching down towards the middle of the city.
But I imagine it being more like
Drunk slur, blah.
or just a Premier League game, like when Arsenal fans are running down the street cheering on the Gooners.
Come on! The demonstration was a largely peaceful protest of the then McCormick Harvesting Machine Company. Okay, so this was a farm equipment company.
Okay,
so the whole idea was they wanted to provide better working conditions, fair pay, and that 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we want. Sergio, May 3 comes around, and scabs try to cross the picket line.
Oh, we don't like scabs. We pick scabs.
So union members were not happy about this, as you can imagine. How do you bring the machine to the ground if you allow the system to sustain? Anyway, these union workers, they start fighting with the scabs. And because you can't have fighting, the police arrive. Within minutes of the police arriving, 2 men are shot or beat to death. It depends on which report you read. But the common thread is the police were the executioners that day. The state does not want people to collectivize to provide for themselves.
Well, I wonder during that time too if the scabs were the newly arrived immigrants that they had.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Which just builds into xenophobia and immigrants stealing jobs.
Workers,
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. You brought up a really good point there. So, in the crowd was a local anarchist. His name was August Spies. He was a young German man.
What a great name. That's
right?
actually kind of a poor name.
Dude, so like as I was reading it, like as I was reading the story about this, I'm going, oh my God, like August Spies. This guy could have been like a James Bond.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. So he published.
Oh, I am August Spies. Oh yeah.
Can you do it? Can you do it with a Midwest accent on top of the German accent?
Oh no, I can't.
In sprechen Sie sausages.
Oh yeah, I hide them because I'm so naughty.
So he ran a small anarchist newspaper called Arbeiter Zeitung.
Oh, good.
Zeitung? I don't know how you pronounce that. I actually have no idea if I did that right at all.
Oh,
our one German listener. Our one German listener might be able to provide us some feedback.
Great.
So August Spies, he goes back and he immediately publishes a piece in the newspaper called "Working Men to Arms." Right. So, and I am going to be reading. I'm going to be relying heavily on the historychannel.com here. So please, I know that they whitewash a lot of shit, but like, if I got something wrong here, please stop me. So that evening, as word of the McCormick killing spread, another group of Chicago anarchists planned an outdoor rally to protest police brutality. They scheduled the gathering for the following evening at the Haymarket Square, a large space on the Plain Street where farmers sold produce. Around 8:30 p.m. on May 4th, a chilly wind swept across Chicago. The streets near Haymarket Square swelled with 2,000 workers and activists. August Spies opened the rally by climbing atop a hay wagon and giving a speech on the 8-hour movement and the good honest, law-abiding, church-going citizens, end quote, who had been attacked at the McCormick factory.
Oh, yeah, you might take our land, but you'll never take our freedom, yeah.
Land, yes! Sorry. I must be screaming into the microphone like an idiot. So I found this next part especially interesting. Prominent among the thronged listeners was Chicago Mayor Carter Harrison, who attended the meeting to ensure it was peaceful.
God, what a waspy name.
Right? Carter Harrison.
Carter Harrison.
Oh, yes. I'm Carter Harrison of the Harrison Foundation. The mayor had taken the precaution of stationing 6 companies of police nearby, but after listening to the speeches, he became convinced that the rally was not a safety risk. Keep that in mind. Before leaving, he conferred with the police inspector, John Bonfield, and told him to not intervene.
Okay.
I'm going to let that sit for a second because that's important here.
Do not intervene.
Do not intervene. The article continues. There's another guy that was a part of this like whole like speech and like, you know, giving a rousing, hand clapping, jeering the system.
We're going to get the jeers. They're going to be the best jeers in Chicago.
We're going to be hanging out with Chicago. I love hot dogs. Hot dogs are amazing. If you've ever had a hot dog. I've never had a hot dog before, but I love hot dogs.
Hot dogs are the best. They're not as good as New York.
I think Chicago should be burned to the ground. I think it's a shithole. So, as Felton climbs down from the hay wagon, the tension was suddenly broken by the sight of a homemade dynamite bomb.
Jeez.
Its fuse lit, flying from the crowd and into the ranks of police.
Shit.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking wild. It actually, like, you can see this playing out in your head, and it's really wild, right? The device...
Somebody throwing dynamite towards police officers?
Yeah, dude. The device exploded with a roar and a blinding orange flash, spraying shrapnel through the bodies of several police officers.
Oof.
One of them, Matthias Dagan, would soon perish from a severed leg artery. Just what happens next remains the subject of debate. Several witnesses, including a group of unaffiliated businessmen, said the police panicked and fired away with their Colt revolvers, hitting protesters as well as several of their fellow officers. The police, meanwhile, almost unanimously claimed that the members of the crowd drew guns and instigated a shootout. Whatever the cause, the result was pandemonium. The article continues. Everybody was running, spies later recalled, and people fell, struck by bullets right and left. When the fur finally subsided, some 60 officers laid wounded. 7 of them were mortally wounded. Several dozen civilians were injured, and at least 4 were killed. So it is a tragic event in terms of not only just like
The loss of life.
loss of life, not even like from the labor side of things. Like even if you like take that lens off of it, this is an event that happened in one of the 5th biggest city at the time in the world.
Yeah.
That most people don't know about. Most people don't know about this.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah. The Haymarket bombing provoked a frenzied response from the media, which largely framed the incident as a work of immigrant radicals. Sergio, you looked into your fucking crystal ball and you figured it out.
I was right. I'm the smartest.
A law journal branded the protesters long-haired, wild-eyed, bad-smelling, atheistic, reckless foreign wretches.
Oof.
While the Chicago Times called for the public to, quote, whip the Slavic wolves back to the European dens from which they issue.
Man, I'm half Croatian, so fuck you.
When I read that out loud, because I typed this out and like copied, pasted it, and dropped it in, and reading that out loud made me think of Build the Wall.
Yeah. I mean, immigrants have always been the scapegoat for everything.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
It's the easiest target.
Yeah. People who cannot defend themselves.
No. And aren't going to defend themselves because they're trying to assimilate into the culture. I mean, it's yeah. We'll go into the whole thing about it, especially with the Latinos that are in the United States right now and what they go through on a daily basis.
Absolutely. All of this, as you can probably imagine, Sergio, brought the progress that the workers' unions were making to a fucking halt.
Really?
Not in America. Wild rumors started to circulate about anarchist conspiracies and bomb plots. Martial law was declared in Chicago. and police rounded up hundreds of suspected dissidents. Throughout it all, the identity of the Haymarket bomb thrower remained a mystery. No one knows who threw it. Nevertheless, on 27 May, 8 anarchists were indicted for the murder in connection with the riot. August Spies, who I spoke about at the beginning of this, who was the anarchist newspaper owner, Albert Parsons, Samuel Felden, George Engel, Adolf Fischer, Michael Schwab, Louis Ling, and Oscar Neebe. There was a trial of 8 men. They eventually called it, the newspaper eventually called them the Chicago 8 because, look, it was the 1800s. They get an excuse for the lack of creativity here.
I mean, but that got brought up to what was the one
The
in
Central Park 5.
Central Park 5. So, I mean, we haven't really advanced that much.
Yeah, no. We're advancing. We're advancing, Sergio, one step at a time. An article from the Time noted that more than half of the men accused weren't even there when it happened. And that it was more of a trial on anarchism in our country than it was about the men who were on trial, and shifted the focus from the original intent, which is about the business owners not being flexible with their workforce.
Yeah.
It happens. It is almost like there's, I don't know, a script, or as if there is like, I don't know, human nature that dictates these things to happen over and over and over and over again in our society.
It's so frustrating.
Remember when you're talking about the Vanderbilts?
Yeah.
Simultaneously, the Gilded Age was in full swing. So,
the robber barons.
Yep, the likes of the Vanderbilts, Fords, Carnegies, the Rockefellers, the Flaglers, all tycoons and masters of industry, right? They're building monuments to themselves. They're fucking, we're talking...
They're Russian oligarchs.
They're American oligarchs.
Yes, the American version of the oligarch.
One of them took a bunch of jewels from a Russian oligarch. We'll get into that one day. Mm-hmm. So think about this. You are watching your child go to work in a mine in West Virginia every day. He comes back and he's coughing and he's screaming in pain because he's got shards of charcoal in his lungs. Meanwhile, some dumb fucking dick and his stupid fucking wife are partying at one of the monuments they've built to themselves in North Carolina. So, you're not able to find food without bugs in it. You're not able to find bread that isn't half eaten by mice. And the entire time, the likes of the Vanderbilts are hosting parties where the matriarch is wearing pearl earrings from Catherine the Great. So, you can see, like, I don't know, why people would be angry. Or, like, if you looked at today, you've got, I don't know, veterans who come back from Afghanistan who are dealing with mental health issues and can't find jobs, so they end up living on the street being disrespected by the country that sent them off to war. Meanwhile, the billionaires who make money off their back, I don't know, find themselves not having to deal with fucking anything.
No. It's not their problem.
We have not changed.
No.
At all.
God, let that sink in.
So thanks to the efforts of organizations, and I'm fast forwarding quite a bit here for my frustration around the Vanderbilt family. But thanks to the efforts of organizations like the AFL-CIO, or as most people don't know it to be called, the American Federation of Labor, Congress of Industrial Organizations, and other organizations, labor organizations that is, labor was going to get the protections they so rightly deserved and needed. That's not to say I don't have issues with the AFL-CIO. There's a incident that happened in 1961 where Dr. King addressed the AFL-CIO in a convention where he gave the speech titled, "If the Negro Wins, Labor Wins." King was disappointed by the AFL's association with labor unions that excluded black and brown workers.
Why would they do that?
Because in America, even though we're all supposed to be banded together by labor, you still find a way to segregate it. So if you allowed, his whole idea was if you allowed black and brown workers to join unions, that would help end hiring discrimination practices, right? If you allowed them to join the union when unions were super powerful because white folks were like, socialism works for white people. King would in part say this during his speech. If I did not point out that the labor movement of 30 years ago did more in that period for civil rights than labor is doing today, our combined strength is enormous, but we have not used a fraction of it for our own good or the needs of a society as a whole. King, to his credit, would also make many speeches to other worker groups as he would go along. Here's a speech that he gave to a sanitation laborers group in 1968 in Memphis, which is also known as the Mountaintop Speech, which, if you remember from your history class, was the last speech he would give before he was shot dead by the state.
You are demanding that this city will respect the dignity of labor. So often we overlook the worth and the significance of those who are not in professional jobs, of those who are not in the so-called big jobs. But let me say to you tonight that whenever you are engaged in work that serves humanity and is for the building of humanity, it has dignity and it has worth.
Real quick, and because the audio kind of shifts a little bit here, and I'll stop it there. But it is one of the more, when I was watching it, and I was reminded of my grandfather when he was talking to me about it as a kid, talking about King when I was a kid, and my father talking about King when I was a kid, and just the visceral reaction that I have listening to a man like that talk about dignity.
Yeah.
All labor has dignity. He ended the speech by saying that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you do. Just because you were a black or brown person back then, or even today, and you were forced to work in a position that was, not a quote unquote good job or whatever, you still deserve the right to be respected.
Without a doubt. And you deserve to be able to have the same access to vacation, to days off, if you get sick or if you get hurt, to be taken care of.
Yes.
Because you're just as important as the CEO of
who doesn't produce much.
Basically just fudges numbers and tries to sell something that
shakes hands
and is dynamic with speaking. And we talk about people, especially nowadays, is with the trades. The trades need to be paid equally as people that have college
100%,
educations.
100%.
We need air conditioning. We need electricity. We need plumbing. We need drywalling. We need roofing. I mean, this is all stuff that we're going to need.
Yeah.
And people that have those talents, I don't have those talents. I can't do that shit at my house. And they bang it out and they work really hard.
Yeah. They work harder than most white collar workers I know. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I want to kind of, we're not ending the episode here yet, but I do want to pull together these threads. We're talking about professions that deserve respect. And you've got J.D. Vance talking about the head of the teachers union should not be a part of the head of the teachers union because she doesn't have kids.
Mm-hmm. Cats.
What is wrong with these people?
Yeah. Well, and especially when,
it makes me so angry.
Well, the people that just frame it as, we're more pro union and pro labor than the Democrats, and yet they do everything possible to try to ruin it,
yeah.
so that people can't get represented, that we don't. And being a social worker and being in a public school, I'm represented by a union.
Good.
And it's fucking amazing. We
Good.
have a policy that you can donate time into a sick bank. So if you get really, really sick,
Good.
that you can basically use as much as you possibly can.
That's awesome.
To, get better so you can come back to work.
I love that.
But there's also problems with unions,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. We're going to talk more about that here in a second.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm very, very proud to be in a union, and I think it's amazing. I think, we should definitely be supportive of unions.
Hats off to you on that one.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to talk to you about the problem with unions.
Jimmy Hoffa?
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into that yet. So Dr. King and the AFL were also at loggerheads over a couple of other items, right? Not only including black and brown folks into the workforce, but also over the Vietnam War. The AFL was a strong supporter of the Vietnam War. And as of 2020, the AFL, their headquarters in Washington, D.C., was vandalized during the George Floyd protests because they support the largest police organization union in the entire country. So the AFL-CIO condemns the murder of Mr. Floyd, but does not want to discuss their affiliation with the IUPA. Very, very convenient. I did a little bit more digging around the IUPA, and boy, oh boy, that deserves its own episode in itself, if I'm being honest. I know that I'm leaving out a lot about labor in the United States here, Sergio, both good and bad, right? Like, both.
I'm surprised we haven't talked about the jungle at all. And
dude, there's so much to cover. Yeah, there's so much to cover.
Yeah.
Upton Sinclair. If you are not familiar with Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, please do yourself a favor. Stop listening to this and immediately go read that. Like, it's not what we're talking about here is not worth listening to versus reading that book.
Genuinely. That's absolutely not true. We're way better than Upton Sinclair. Fuck that guy.
You're so kind to us.
Have to be. We have to sell our product.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll leave it to you to do that. I know I'm leaving a lot out about labor in the United States, both good and bad. But I thought this was an interesting part of our collective history to talk about. I don't think about it very often, but without these folks who protested, demonstrated, lobbied, picketed, and voted, maybe the worker protections that we so desperately need and deserve today would not exist.
And you know what? One thing, though, I want to just interject is that we also got to get through this mindset of not valuing money over human life. We have to have a more humanistic approach and it's not going to happen because people are always going to be motivated by trying to be the richest or whatever. But
right.
These are people's lives that we're talking about here. To make something that is just giving you just money that you'll never be able to spend.
Temporary satisfaction.
For what? For just the title that it will go away at some point.
You'll be dead.
Yes. The richest person now is not going to be the richest person in 30 years.
Yep.
So what? You're going to be in history. Oh, I was the 50th richest person ever, but you're dead.
Right.
I don't understand the mindset.
Conquest, control, all these things, Sergio. I mean, like, I even drilled down even one step further. Was it worth, I don't know, Mrs. Anderson's kid dying due to the black lung?
Yeah.
There were children who died to satisfy the bosses getting more money.
Absolutely.
There are children dying today to satisfy the bosses for more money. There are adult men and women who get experimented on today to satisfy the bosses getting more money. So I'll leave us with this. The next time Labor Day comes around, I want you to remember the migrants. I want you to remember the women, the men, and most tragically, the children who sacrificed for us, the American worker, to not work a 12-hour plus day for minimal wages, to not have the black lung, to not come home with missing fingers, to have 8 hours for work, 8 hours for pleasure, and 8 hours for whatever I want to do. Yeah. I want you to remember those people.
Spending time with my family, being able to go on vacation, being able to, get sick.
I want you to remember that without an organized labor force, those who would take advantage of us even more would do so. Oh,
and just look at Juneteenth, right? That was the big controversy.
Yes,
another federal holiday.
Right.
These lazy workers want to have 12 days off in a year.
Right. We're not socialist Europe.
12 days. Tangent time. That when in France, you have 3 years of maternity leave.
Yeah.
And you get free health care coming to you to check in with you. Man, the thing that's so fucked up is that you go and you think about the Europeans that have 3 years off for maternity leave to be with their kid and to be able to bond and learn how to breastfeed. And yet we have 12 days a year for that. And a lot of places don't have maternity leave, depending on the kind of job that you have.
Yep. If you work at Walmart, you might as well not even try to have a maternity leave.
No, you're fired.
I think that's where we're probably going to leave it for the day.
Well, we have to have some final thoughts.
Well, yeah. Go ahead and give me your final thoughts.
My final thoughts is that I think the more and more that we talk about things like this, it's really important to recognize how much better, hopefully, you have it than people before you had it. Clearly, there's a lot of people that aren't benefiting, migrants and people that don't have these same kind of benefits. But we're trying, and
yeah, we are.
We're trying to make more awareness and recognize that everybody deserves, and it's their right to have a chance to have time off, to be with their family, to not get exploited, to get a fair wage, and to be able to be sick and not have to worry about being.
Yeah. Well, I do think that's where we should leave it for the week, though. We've covered a lot of ground. We covered our final thoughts around it. I want you to, if you are listening to the show today, I want you to go ahead and take a look at the show notes for all of our artist credits.
And I want you to pledge $50.
Please do. But if you wanted to, you could email us. If you want to hear more about this, that'd be great, because I think that this is a really awesome topic to cover. And I'm sure I missed a lot of detail. So go ahead and email us at theextremes@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Twitter at theextremespod. Until next time, beloved, you can act appropriately.
Hell yeah.